Christian, I'm really excited to hear more about ISO 222. Yeah. But before we do, let's find out a bit more about you and your role at Danske Bank.
Yeah. My role in Danske Bank is kind of twofold. So I'm a Tribe Lead for core payments, the core payments platform. So essentially all the core payment systems in the bank. So all payments going in and out basically go through our systems. But the other component is what we call the Payment Center of Excellence. So it's essentially where we have our sector collaboration. So everything that happens within the industry, in the different jurisdictions that the bank is part of, we have representatives. And it's our theme integration. So all big payment programs that goes across the bank, we manage those as well.
That's absolutely incredible, considering the amount of changes that the payments industry is going through in the recent years. Yeah, from a section of finance that was maybe a little bit sleepy 15 years ago to where we are now. Wow. So, I mean, let's start with at the beginning. How do you look at the changes coming from international standards like ISO 222? How do you tackle them, and what are the opportunities for a bank like Danske to be the first ones to really get involved?
Yeah, I think that's why we've had to change mindset a little bit, because typically it's been, this is mandatory, we have to do it, let's see what we can get away with.
Yeah.
But there's so much happening that it's not really an option anymore. So we've had to look at it a lot more strategically in terms of when so much is changing at the same time, how can we do that efficiently? But it also means what should we not be focusing on right now, but do bare minimum, and then perhaps go back and refocus on it later.
Fascinating.
Because we're not in control of the deadlines.
Yeah.
So where we might normally say, let's do everything right, now we will always do right, but we might not make it as slick as we would if we had the time.
That's such an interesting way to look at it. It's gone from being like, we just have to get the bare minimum out, to now actually being very proactive and exploring what's the benefit for your customers. And can I actually understand those a bit more for maybe the wholesale customers, the business customers? What does this standard mean for them?
I mean, one thing is that we'll be able to keep up the standard we have today. Because essentially, there's so much more legislation, there's a lot more, let's say, focus on fin crime.
Yeah.
That we're kind of getting dragged in the opposite direction in terms of being able to service our customers to the level that they are used to today. So there's more and more payments that get captured by anti-money laundering rules and everything else. So just to be able to still provide the service we're doing today, we need to implement these new standards. But then there's all the, let's say, fun stuff on top that, especially for big corporations, they'll be able to put a lot more remittance information in the actual payments, which makes it easier to reconcile. So if you've ever worked with invoices, like my background is invoice financing, reconciling a payment to an actual invoice can be quite a big pain, and this standard really reduces that. So it's kind of a lot of hygiene factors that in isolation are maybe not that exciting, but it'll have a really big impact.
Huge impact for corporate customers, and it's just going to make them feel a lot better banking with you already. Now, when it comes to, for instance, real-time payments as well intersecting with these new standards, what does that mean? Is that an added headache for people in your situation?
I mean, it is a little bit, but mainly because of the volumes. So especially in Denmark, instant payment has been around for quite a while, and it's very heavily used. And we're starting to see that cross-border payments is the next thing that people are expecting. Customers have kind of gone from, which I think it's quite fair, why can I make a payment to my sister in the next town within a second? But if I want to make a payment to, as my sister lives in Sweden, to her, it takes 2 days. Doesn't make any sense. It's only 30 minutes away across the bridge. But that is where we're moving towards. But as you can imagine, different legislations, different jurisdictions, it's not easy to do anything cross-border.
No, and it really does seem to be, not just for retail customers like yourself, organizations are becoming far more global as well. So it's really going to become quite the battleground, I predict, in the future. Now, could I get your perspectives on where if we take what we've just discussed and we distill that down into the future, where is this going to lead the payments industry and Danske Bank in the future?
I think kind of twofold. For us internally, I think that in some ways my area is going to be, I wouldn't say less interesting, but less busy. we have this massive hump we need to get over the next 3-4 years, and then I think things will stabilize a little bit. Payments, the core payments will probably go back to being a little bit like we used to know it, that we just want it to work, but it's not where we want to, put heavy investment into. But it just enables so much more that, everybody's talking about. On top, instant payment is one of the things. There's a lot of areas where instant payment is still not a thing. Germany is not heavily using it for businesses, for instance. So I think that's why we're moving, that we need to get over this big hump of everything changing, and then we can start focusing on the actual customer value again.
Absolutely brilliant. Well, I look forward to that point, so you get a couple of nights sleep in. But before we get to that point, I imagine, is artificial intelligence and AI and machine learning enabling you to deal with this increase in volume in payments too?
It's quite interesting because it's something that was really up into time a few years ago in the bank.
Yeah.
And then it's died down a little bit. And now it's kind of like with ChatGPT, everybody's talking about it again.
Yeah.
But it's actually been a little bit dormant for a while.
Yeah.
But I think it will have pardon the pun, a renaissance in the bank as well, because there's so much you can do with it. But it's not new. I mean, I'm not that old, I think. But one of my university assignments was on AI and how we can improve the customer relationship. And that is quite a few years ago now.
Well, yeah, and it just shows how the pace of change is never stopping now. It is constantly evolving, but it's fascinating to take that perspective. Now, I think it remains, as we've mentioned, we're here at the Banking Renaissance event here in Amsterdam. It's absolutely buzzing. How have you found it today?
Yeah, it's been really good. I think the big difference is, the keynote speakers. You don't get these guys at any events. So the fact that you get these really visionary people telling us how they see the future, but in a very relatable way, I think that's a really big difference compared to the normal conferences where it's more like my presentation, to be honest, more to the practical side.
Yeah, exactly. It's been absolutely brilliant hearing those two perspectives in one place, and all those guest speakers, as you mentioned, including yourself as well, in one place. So thank you so much, Christian. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.